He sat in his car, watching the rain lash against the windshield, its rhythmic drumming on the roof, filling the silence. It wasn't the gentle summer shower that brings relief. This was a relentless downpour, a torrent that turned the parking lot into a flooded expanse. Gusts of wind sent sheets of water cascading across the asphalt, evoking the chaos of emergency broadcasts on television, though it fell short of a hurricane. He was there to repair the restaurant's air conditioner, perched on the roof, but he had no intention of venturing out until the storm subsided. After all, it was Wednesday, his day for jobs in Belo Horizonte, and he shouldn't even be here. Yet, this was an emergency, and as the most qualified expert, he was the one they'd called, reluctantly, since no one else wanted the long drive for such a service contract. The restaurant was part of an old motel, one of those budget places with exterior entrances that made up for their dated charm with low prices. João suspected the eatery saw more traffic than the rooms themselves. That day, guests were checking out en masse, while the housekeepers huddled under the nearest awning to escape the deluge. The wait dragged on, tedious and unrelenting, until a black Volkswagen Beetle convertible pulled into a nearby spot. From across the lot, through the curtain of rain, João couldn't make out the license plate, but the car bore an uncanny resemblance to his wife Amanda's. They had been married for nearly 2 decades, raising 2 daughters. Catarina, who at 18 was on the cusp of university life in just 3 months, and Valentina, 16, and deep in her Gothic rebellion, the two as different as night and day. Amanda and João had attended the same school, but he hadn't truly known her until years later, when she waited tables at a local diner. His school days were marred by a severe stutter, compounded by the paralyzing fear that made him withdrawn and brooding. He spoke only when necessary, and even then, with the fewest words possible. His teachers had strict instructions not to call on him. Whether that helped or hindered, he couldn't say. Most classmates saw him as odd, even foolish, but he had no frame of reference to feel otherwise. Bullying was a constant, and when words failed, he resorted to physical means to stop it, methods that, surprisingly, worked. He was midway through a technical course in air conditioning repair when he finally met Amanda properly. Their first real interaction was when she took his order at the diner, the same woman he'd barely noticed in school. He didn't date. His stutter and lack of social skills saw to that. For over a month, he did little more than order food, eat, and leave, always leaving generous tips. Amanda was kind and polite, putting him at ease in a way no one else had. It took time to gather his courage, but he eventually asked her out, and to his surprise, she accepted without hesitation. She never pushed him to talk more than he could, intuitively aware of his struggle, though she never mentioned it. Their courtship deepened over months, evolving into something serious. Physical intimacy that he approached with inexperience. She was patient and guiding, easing him through it without embarrassment. He sensed she'd been through this before, but it was her past, not his concern. They married in a simple civil ceremony shortly after he completed his training, with a full-time job waiting and a salary better than expected. Amanda continued working until she was pregnant with Catarina, then became a full-time homemaker and mother. They weren't wealthy, but life was comfortable and good. Now, curiosity gnawed at João. as he strained to see the Beetle's plate through the rain. A silver Mercedes parked nearby, and a man in a trench coat stepped out with effortless poise. Joao's stomach twisted as he watched the man open the Beetle's door and Amanda emerge, wrapping her arms around him. They hurried toward the motel cover, laughing as he pulled a room key from his pocket. João lingered in the parking lot for over 2 hours after the rain stopped, though he barely noticed. He stepped out just long enough to note the Mercedes license plate. Eventually, Amanda and the man emerged, still laughing, and shared a quick kiss on the cheek before parting ways. It was the same casual gesture she once reserved for him. She never glanced toward his car across the lot. Her focus was solely on her companion. Tears blurred his vision as he watched them drive away. He never fixed the air conditioner that day. The drive back to the shop was swift, and when he arrived, he resigned on the spot. His boss's anger melted into disappointment, but no explanations were demanded. At the bank, he withdrew his final paycheck and emptied their accounts, leaving only 6 reals, saving the college fund for the girls. As he drove, he realized Valentina would likely never attend university. Her grades and attitude were equally poor. He couldn't fathom what he'd done to alienate her, and he dreaded asking. The girls had been raised the same way, yet they couldn't be more different. A pang of guilt flickered, but it faded. He'd prepaid Catarina's tuition for 4 years, and she was close enough to home that no extra costs loomed. Amanda was home when he arrived. As always, he removed his wet shoes at the door. She stepped from the kitchen, puzzled. João, what are you doing home so early? I thought you'd be in Belo Horizonte all day. All day. He brushed past, planting a quick kiss on her cheek, the same one she'd given her lover hours before. She looked bewildered as he ignored her question and headed to the bedroom. His suitcase was half packed when she followed. João, what on earth is happening? What are you doing? He continued methodically, taking only his essentials: underwear, shoes, and work clothes. You're not going to answer me? Just because you had a bad day doesn't mean you should leave. I'm your wife. You owe me an explanation. He paused, meeting her gaze. She knew better than to rush him. Today I wasn't working in Belo Horizonte, he said clearly, without hesitation or stutter. She fell silent, waiting. He finished packing and added, Today I worked in Ouro Preto. The words were slow, controlled. She slipped out of the room quietly. She was on the couch when he reached the front door, slipping on his work boots. He glanced back. Her eyes were tearful, but she offered no apologies or excuses. He was nearing Oro Branco when his phone rang. It was Catarina. Hi, Dad. Mom said you left. I just wanted to make sure you're okay. Talking was hard with his stutter, especially for long conversations. But he managed. I'm fine, he said. She pressed on. Mom told us everything. Valentina and I have known for about 3 years. I'm not happy it happened, but I'm glad you know now. Don't blame yourself. You were a good husband and father. He didn't respond. Words failed him. The call ended abruptly. That evening, in a Ouro Preto restaurant, he noticed a job ad for a maintenance manager specializing in air conditioning and heating. A quick call secured an interview for the next day. It was his first ever, and nerves gnawed at him, his stutter eroding his confidence. The position was at Faith's Refuge, a small church-affiliated nursing home, a patchwork of aging buildings in desperate need of care. Good morning. You must be Mr. João. May I call you João? Asked Dom Carlos as they shook hands. For the next 30 minutes, Dom Carlos shared the facility's history and challenges. It was a nonprofit, struggling financially, housing over 100 elderly residents until they needed state care. Maintenance costs were crippling, and hiring João was their last-ditch effort. The salary was modest, but it included a small basement apartment and community meals. 3 days later, the apartment was livable, the food hearty and convenient. The workshop was well equipped, though he lacked experience with some appliances. He spent weekends studying insurance policies and tackled tasks methodically, prioritizing critical repairs and building an inventory. Within weeks, a comfortable routine emerged: work by day, settle his new home by night. He kept his phone off, using the work line and an old computer to track maintenance. Dom Carlos was pleased, and João felt content. Life was good again. 3 months had passed since he left. On Catarina's birthday, he called, his first contact since departing. She answered warmly. Hi, Dad. Happy birthday? Wait, no. Happy to hear your voice. Your phone's been off. Where are you? What are you doing? I've been worried. Slowly, one question at a time, he replied. I'm fine. I have a job and a place to live. How about you? She shared her college life: dorm living, a part-time job at a campus diner, and sticking to her education plan. Mom's really down, though. Not everything's okay here. He listened, the weight of it all settling, but for the first time in ages, he felt a glimmer of peace. She told us, Valentina and me. What happened? I don't think she regrets what she did, only that she got caught. She found a job at a diner, but I guess it wasn't enough to keep the house. She's been selling off all your tools, everything you had in the garage, and now she's selling the furniture. The last time I spoke with her, she said she was going to talk to the bank about the mortgage payments. I think she's planning to just let the house go. It's a shame. It was a good house. By the way, Valentina disappeared a few weeks after you left. She and Mom had a huge fight. And just so you know, you're not her biological father. It's some guy from Belo Horizonte named Andre Soares. I think he's the same one Mom was with the day you found out. Everything, right? Anyway, Valentina left. She sent a postcard from San Francisco. I feel like I'm the cause of so much pain, he murmured into the phone. No, Dad, it's not like that. Mom got herself into this mess all on her own. Catarina, give me your address. I'll send you a power of attorney. It'll make it easier for your mother to get rid of the house. You don't have to do that. I know, but it will make things easier for her. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Life at Faith's Refuge had a rhythm of its own. The staff ate with the residents, though slightly later and in a separate part of the dining hall. Was this a kind of hierarchy? He wasn't sure. He'd already made friends with other employees and even a few of the residents. He wasn't sure why he thought of them as inmates, but the term felt strangely appropriate. Soon, Isabella became a constant presence at his table. She was in charge of the facility's laundry. In fact, she was the only laundress on staff. Most residents washed their own clothes in the communal laundry room, which she was also expected to maintain. If there was a way to break a washer or a dryer, they found it with impressive speed. Isabella was in her 40s, give or take. Not a stunning beauty, but far from plain. He learned she was single, never married. She was a hard worker and, from what he could tell, in excellent shape. She lived with her parents, who drove her to and from work each day. But what set her apart, what made him truly see her, was that she was deaf. Before he knew it, he was spending more and more time with her. She wore a small notepad on a lanyard around her neck, which she used when necessary, but she usually got by perfectly well without it. She was a gifted lip reader, and for some reason, when he was with her, his stutter vanished. He didn't even have to voice the words. He could just mouth them, and she would understand. This was monumental. She never once made him feel ashamed of his affliction. Their bond deepened when she invited him to spend Thanksgiving with her family. Her parents and sister were all hearing. Her mother and sister were wonderfully expressive, speaking with a clarity that made it easy for him to follow, and they were sensitive to his speech impediment. Her father was an affable man who relied on the two women to translate the flow of conversation. They expertly guided the discussion in a way that allowed him to speak as little or as much as he wanted, while still feeling completely included. It was a good day. He and Isabella grew closer. The state school for the deaf was a 30-minute drive away. He had no trouble enrolling in an evening sign language course, even midway through the semester. He didn't tell Isabella at first, but she suspected something was up when he began paying closer attention to her gestures. When he finally told her, her face lit up. She offered to stay up late to help him with his homework. His instructors had warned him that it would likely take 2 years to achieve enough fluency for a simple conversation, but he was motivated. He had to start somewhere. Work was going well. He had something of a personal life, though he wasn't really dating anyone. With each passing day, the ache he felt over the dissolution of his marriage faded a little more. Then Catarina called to say she was coming for Christmas. She didn't ask. She informed. How could he say no? There were plenty of guest rooms available, so it was easy enough to book one for her. He was a little anxious about her meeting Isabella, but he needn't have been. As soon as Catarina realized Isabella was deaf, she began to sign. She wasn't an expert, but she knew enough that they could carry on a long conversation without his help. It turned out Catarina had taken 2 sign language courses in high school and had continued her studies at the university. Of course, her old man knew nothing about it. It seemed she had already decided to major in special education. They ended up spending most of the Christmas holiday with Isabella and her parents. He still had to tend to repairs at the refuge. It seemed things kept breaking, holiday or not, but Catarina didn't seem to mind being left on her own now and then. He felt a blush creep up his neck when Isabella kissed him under a sprig of mistletoe, but Catarina seemed to thoroughly enjoy his embarrassment. Before she left, Catarina mentioned casually that, in her opinion, Amanda was in contact with Andre Suarez. It wasn't anything Amanda had said directly, just small hints, things she'd let slip or referred to indirectly. Catarina had the distinct impression she was waiting for something she was eagerly anticipating. 2 weeks later, the divorce papers arrived. She wasn't asking for anything, just the divorce. He signed everything and sent it back to her lawyer. But one thing gnawed at him. He was furious. She had used him, taken advantage of the situation and his good nature, and then cast him aside when he was no longer needed. Asterisk. It was wrong, he thought. Asterisk. I know. I was the one who left her. I opened that door. Still, it was wrong. He needed to find a balance. He was happy with his new life, and should have just counted his blessings and moved on. But he couldn't. Isabella didn't gloat when he told her about the divorce, but it was obvious her mood had lifted. She was the same as before, only better. Yet he spent his nights staring at the ceiling, unable to stop thinking about how he had been used. His pride was in pieces. She was the one in the wrong, yet he was the one who had suffered. He knew that was often how things went, but he didn't have to like it. He needed closure. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. It was 6 o'clock on a Monday morning. He sat in a diner in Belo Horizonte, nursing a coffee, waiting for Andre Suarez to leave for work. His house was just down the street. At 7 a.m. sharp, a man emerged and drove away. That was his cue. He had dressed a little better than usual for his meeting with Mrs. Suarez. He didn't want to make her uncomfortable. He had no idea what he was going to say as he rang the doorbell. Though it was still early, she was already dressed. He had feared she might answer in her pajamas or a robe. "Yes, can I help you?" "Mrs. Suarez, my name is João. I was hoping I could have a moment of your time." "Are you selling something, Mr. João?" "I don't think we're interested." "No, ma'am. This is a personal matter. It concerns your husband and my wife." She fell silent, her expression deeply thoughtful. He couldn't tell if she was about to send him away or invite him in. "Please," he added softly. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Is your wife's name Amanda by any chance?" "It is, ma'am." "Please come in, Mr. João. We really do need to talk." He spent the next 2 hours with Mrs. Suarez. When he left to drive home, he wasn't sure if he felt better or worse. She had suspected something for years, but had never been able to find any concrete proof. She remained calm and stoic through most of their conversation, until he mentioned Valentina. That's when her composure cracked, and that's when he decided it was time to leave. His work was done. The first thing he did upon his return was tell Isabella everything. He couldn't start a relationship with her based on secrets. She seemed to understand and spent a little extra time trying to comfort him. The circle had finally closed. He and Isabella started looking for a house to adopt. They felt they were too old to start a family of their own, but Isabella was keen on the idea. They explored their options and discovered that their chances of adopting children with hearing impairments were very high. The people at the school for the deaf would be more than happy to help them. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. "Dad, it's me, Catarina." He hadn't been expecting a call from his daughter in the middle of the night. "Hello, is everything all right?" "Not really, but you don't need to worry. I'm at the hospital in Belo Horizonte. Mom's been shot." "All right, you have my attention. What the hell happened?" "From what I can piece together, Mom and Mr. Suarez were having dinner at a restaurant when Mrs. Suarez walked in and started shooting at them with a .22 revolver. All the shots missed except for one that just grazed Mom's right arm. It's not serious, but she needed medical attention. They're releasing her in a few hours. I'll stay here and then take her home." "What happened to her boyfriend?" "Didn't get a scratch on him. He vanished. Before the police even got there, he just left Mom in the lurch." Mrs. Suarez just sat down in a chair and waited calmly for the officers to arrive. "I suppose there's no reason for me to come down there, is there?" "No, I'll take her home. I'll call you later. Oh, I almost forgot. Mom is absolutely furious that her boyfriend ran out on her. I've never seen her so angry. By the way, keep some time free at the beginning of April. Your daughter is getting married." A slow smile spread across his face. Congratulations. I will definitely be there. Oh, and I'm not telling Mom anything about this. It would completely destroy her right now. Hanging up the phone, he thought it might be a good time to tell Isabella about the upcoming wedding. And so ends the saga of the quiet, level-headed man. He bought a house and moved into it with his new wife. They adopted 3 children and fostered several others over the years. Catarina got a job as a teacher at the school for the deaf and was married a year later. João continued to work at Faith's Refuge alongside Isabella. Amanda kept her job at the diner, and Andre Soares was never seen again.